Picture this. You're standing in your kitchen. The hum of the fridge is the only sound. You hear her footsteps in the hallway, steady, familiar and heavy. Then she walks in, not angry, not shouting, not even emotional, just quiet, controlled, calculated. She doesn't have to say anything. You already feel it. That look, the one that drains the warmth out of the room before a single word is spoken. A blend of disappointment and exhaustion that makes your stomach twist. You know it's coming. That sigh, that slow, tired exhale that hits harder than any scream ever could. You brace yourself. You try to smile. You try to read her mood, but she's already decided how this night will go. She won't yell. Yelling would give you something to fight against. Instead, she'll let silence do the damage, and you'll do what you always do. You'll start apologizing before you even know what for. That's the first move in her game. Subtle, controlled, psychological. No yelling, no chaos, just disappointment as a weapon. Because disappointment is cleaner. It's harder to prove, harder to call out, and it cuts deeper because it makes you feel like you failed her again. She calls it honesty, you call it communication. But it's not honesty, it's judgment disguised as reason. It's the emotional equivalent of a slow leak, draining your confidence drop by drop. So you start adjusting, you talk softer, you laugh less, you tiptoe through conversations, terrified of saying something the wrong way. You start predicting her moods before she speaks. You develop instincts no one should need in a loving relationship. You change how you dress, how you talk, how you live, all to avoid that look. And when you finally do something right, she barely notices. Because the absence of her disappointment is now your reward. That's how the destruction begins. Not with betrayal, not with screaming, with one person learning how to control the other, quietly, perfectly. She'll say she's just being real, that she wants to help you grow. But you're not growing, you're shrinking. You're folding yourself smaller each day, trying to fit into the version of you that she can love without complaint. And the twisted part, you start believing this is what love is supposed to feel like. That love means always trying harder. That love means fixing what's wrong, even when you're not the one breaking it. But it's not love, it's submission. It's control disguised as care. Because the moment you start living to avoid her disappointment, you're no longer living for yourself. You've handed her the map, the rules, and the final say. And from that day forward, every breath you take feels like it needs her permission. Section 2. The slow rewriting. It doesn't start with shouting. It starts with suggestions. Little phrases that sound innocent, helpful even. You'd look better in this. Maybe don't say that in front of people. I'm only telling you this because I care. You laugh it off at first. You tell yourself she just wants the best for you. But that's how it begins, with tiny edits that don't feel like edits until you realize how much of yourself you've deleted. You start changing small things. How you dress, how you talk, how you laugh. You stop telling certain jokes because they're not funny anymore. You stop talking to certain friends because they're not a good influence. And she never forces you. She just frowns, sighs, looks disappointed. And that's enough. It feels like compromise, like being a good partner, like growth. That's what you tell yourself. This is love. This is maturity. This is how relationships work. But it's not compromise if you're the only one changing. It's not growth if it costs you who you are. She starts rewriting the story of you, carefully, slowly, line by line. The things she once admired become flaws. Your confidence becomes arrogance. Your humor becomes immaturity. Your ambition becomes selfishness. Everything she once found attractive becomes something she needs to correct. And she's convincing. Her tone is calm. Her logic is sharp. She makes you feel like you're lucky she's patient enough to improve you. You start to believe she's right, that maybe you do need fixing, that maybe this is what love looks like, someone constantly reminding you how to be better. But here's the truth, love builds, it doesn't edit. When someone loves you, they don't sand down your edges to make you easier to hold. They learn your shape and choose to stay anyway. She doesn't do that. She rewrites you, until your words sound like hers, until your opinions are filtered through her reactions, until your choices reflect her comfort, not your truth. You stop recognizing yourself. You look in the mirror and see someone quieter, smaller, less alive. You used to have ideas, dreams, edges. Now you just have peace, the fragile kind that depends on her mood. Every "we need to talk" becomes another editing session. Every "I just wish you'd understand me" becomes another opportunity for correction. And you keep nodding because arguing means conflict, and conflict means guilt. She doesn't need to control you directly anymore. You've learned to do it for her. You censor yourself before she can. You apologize before you've even been accused. You shrink so she doesn't have to ask you to. And one day she'll look at you, the man she reshaped, the man who gave up everything to please her. And she'll say the same line every broken man eventually hears, "You've changed," and she'll be right, because she wrote the new version herself. Section 3. The control disguised as care. It always starts the same way, with concern. She'll say she just wants to know where you are, who you're with, when you'll be back. It sounds thoughtful, even sweet. You mistake her curiosity for care. But control never begins as control. It begins as love that asks too many questions. She doesn't say you can't go. She says, "I just don't feel comfortable." She doesn't forbid, she worries. And you, trying to be a good man, trying to ease her mind, adjust your plans. You text more, call more, explain more. You think you're reassuring her, but what you're really doing is handing her the keys. Soon, every movement requires a report. Every delay becomes an interrogation. Every unanswered text turns into suspicion. "You said you'd be home by 8. I saw you were online. Who are you with?" She frames it as connection, as wanting to stay close. But closeness isn't supposed to feel like surveillance. It's supposed to feel like trust. You stop realizing how much you've adjusted. You stop hanging out with friends because it causes too much tension. You stop staying late at work because she questions why. You stop having privacy because she calls it distance. And the more transparent you become, the less she trusts you. The more obedient you are, the less she respects you. Because deep down, she doesn't want a man she can control. She wants a man who chooses her despite being free. But when she can control you, she loses interest, and you, desperate to win that interest back, give her even more control. It's a loop, a sick, quiet, endless loop. You think, if I just do this one more thing, she'll finally feel safe. You think love means sacrifice, but this isn't sacrifice, it's surrender. You start avoiding things, not because they're wrong, but because the explanation isn't worth the fight. You don't stay out, don't take calls, don't do anything that might invite her questions. Your world shrinks to the size of her comfort zone. You start living like a man on probation, afraid of triggering suspicion from the person who claims to love you most. And the worst part, she doesn't even see it as control. She calls it caring too much. She'll say, "I just want to feel close to you," but what she really means is, "I want to feel certain I own you." It's control wrapped in tenderness, possession hidden behind affection. You tell yourself it's normal, that all relationships are like this, that love means checking in, being considerate, making her feel secure. But it's not security she's after, it's power. And by the time you realize it, she doesn't even need to ask anymore. You volunteer the details before she does. You hand her your phone, your plans, your independence, and you call it love. That's how it happens. Not through anger, but through kindness. Not through rules, but through rhythm. A pattern that trains you to mistake control for closeness. And when she finally has all of you, she'll look at the quiet, obedient man she built and wonder why she no longer feels anything at all. Section 4. The war in everyday moments. It's not the shouting that breaks you. It's the daily war disguised as peace. The tension you feel sitting beside her, unsure which version of her will show up today. You pour her coffee, she takes it without a word. You speak carefully, measuring each tone like a man walking through a minefield. You don't even realize how much of your day revolves around preventing an explosion that never needed to happen. She says she doesn't like drama, but everything becomes drama. You load the dishwasher wrong. You forgot to close a cabinet. You looked at your phone too long. Every small, meaningless act becomes proof of your carelessness, your indifference, your failure. At first, you try to reason. You explain. You defend. You apologize. But reason has no place here, because the argument isn't about dishes or phone calls. It's about control. It's about who gets to define what's right. And in her world, right always means her way. She plays the game perfectly. She provokes you, then blames you for reacting. If you stay calm, you're cold. If you respond, you're angry. If you walk away, you're avoiding problems. If you stay, you're impossible to talk to. Every path leads to your fault. She wins, not by logic, but by exhaustion. She'll argue until words lose meaning, until your only goal is to make it stop. And when you finally give in, she'll sigh, not with satisfaction, but with relief. Because she doesn't want peace. She wants control disguised as resolution. You start keeping score without meaning to. How many times have you apologized just to move on? How many nights have you sat in silence because you couldn't risk another misunderstanding? You start living defensively, not trying to win, just trying to survive the next conversation. And that's what she wants for you to live in anticipation. Because a man who's always afraid of saying the wrong thing is a man who no longer says anything at all. She calls it communication, but it's not communication when only one voice matters. It's conditioning, training you to equate peace with silence, love with submission. Then one day you stop arguing. You stop explaining, defending, hoping. You just go quiet. You convince yourself it's maturity, that you're learning to pick your battles. But it's not maturity, it's defeat. And here's the cruel irony. The moment you stop reacting, she accuses you of not caring anymore. She'll say you're distant, cold, disconnected. She'll demand the passion she spent years punishing out of you. You look at her, searching for the woman you fell for, but she's gone. What stands before you is someone who needs conflict to feel alive. Someone who can't exist in peace because peace would mean facing herself. So the cycle continues. She pushes, you fold. She breaks something, you fix it. You're not her partner anymore, you're her emotional sparring dummy. And one morning, as you watch her talk, something hits you. You don't hate her. You don't love her. You just feel nothing. That's the cost of the daily war. Not rage, not heartbreak, just emptiness, where love used to live. Section 5. The erosion of respect. But it doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in quietly like rot beneath paint. One day she laughs at a story you tell. A month later, she rolls her eyes at the same story. You shrug it off, maybe she's tired, maybe she's stressed. But the truth is simpler, she's stopped respecting you, and she doesn't even try to hide it anymore. It shows up in her tone, that slight shift when she talks to you, less warmth, more control, the way she corrects you in public, the way she mocks your opinions in private, the way she says your name, sharp and clipped, like it's something she has to endure. That's not communication, that's contempt. She once looked at you with admiration. Now every glance feels like evaluation. She doesn't see a man anymore. She sees a list of flaws, mistakes, unfinished projects and disappointments. She'll mention your shortcomings casually, like facts of nature. You've never been great with money. You always forget things. You just don't think things through. Each line chips away at something inside you. You start defending yourself, explaining, trying to prove you're better than she says you are. But that's the trap, because the moment you argue, she says you're being defensive, that you can't handle honesty, so you stop defending. You swallow it. You accept her version of you because it's easier than fighting it. And that's how respect dies. Quietly, almost politely, she stops thanking you. Not because she's cruel, but because she doesn't think she needs to. Gratitude requires seeing you as a partner. She sees you as an obligation. When you work long hours, it's expected. When you fix things, it's bare minimum. When you show up for her, it's about time. But if she does something, anything, it's an act of sacrifice. She cooks, and you're supposed to be grateful. She cleans, and you should be impressed. She makes a small gesture, and it's treated like a miracle. The imbalance becomes normal. You give constantly. She receives constantly, and somehow you're still the one being told to do more. You start talking less, laughing less, existing less. You live carefully, because any mistake will be remembered, and any success will be dismissed. That's how men fade, not because they're weak, but because they're tired. And here's the cruel truth. The more obedient you become, the less she respects you. The more you sacrifice, the more she demands. She doesn't love your compliance, she despises it. She wanted the man who challenged her, the one with a spark, but she crushed that spark to feel safe, and now she misses the fire she destroyed. You see it in her eyes, that faint disgust she can't explain. She's looking at the version of you she created, and realizing she can't stand it, and she'll never admit that she's the reason it exists. So she'll blame you. She'll say you've changed, and she'll be right. You have, because she made sure of it. Section 6. The breaking of the man. At first you think you can handle it. You tell yourself you're strong enough, that all relationships have rough patches, that this is just a phase. You wear your exhaustion like armor, but slowly the armor becomes your cage. You stop fighting because fighting takes energy, and energy is the one thing she's taken most from you. You start choosing silence over truth, not because you've learned patience, but because words have become dangerous. Everything you say is twisted, replayed, used against you. So you go quiet, and in that quiet, something inside you breaks. It's not a loud shattering, it's a quiet collapse, the kind that doesn't make noise because it's been happening for years. You still go to work, you still smile, you still say I'm fine, but the man who used to live behind your eyes is gone. She notices, of course, not with concern, with annoyance. Your emptiness frustrates her because she can't control a man who's already surrendered. So she pokes, tests, provokes, anything to get a reaction, any sign that she still has power. When you don't react, she calls you cold. When you do react, she calls you angry. No matter what you do, you're wrong. You start living in survival mode. You plan your day around her moods. You measure peace by the number of arguments you avoided. You sleep beside her, but wake up feeling miles away. Your life becomes smaller, quieter, flatter. The destruction is complete when you stop hoping. You stop hoping she'll change. You stop hoping things will get better. You even stop hoping for freedom because freedom feels too far away, like a language you forgot how to speak. You begin to accept the unacceptable. You accept that your happiness doesn't matter. You accept that your needs are selfish. You accept that her moods dictate your worth. That's not love, that's training. And one day, standing in front of a mirror, you realize you don't recognize the man staring back. His shoulders are slumped, his eyes dull, his voice a whisper. He looks polite, calm, agreeable, everything she said she wanted, but he's empty. He's the ghost of a man who once had boundaries, confidence and self-respect. The saddest part is, she'll still say she's the one who's hurting. She'll say she gave everything. She'll tell her friends that you just changed, that you stopped trying. And maybe you did stop trying, but only after realizing that nothing you gave would ever be enough. That's the breaking of a man. It's not one moment, it's not one betrayal, it's 1,000 tiny surrenders until there's nothing left to give. And when she looks at you now, she doesn't see the man she fell for. She sees the man she created. And she hates him because he's proof that she won. Section 7. The isolation and the awakening. By the time you reach this stage, you're no longer living with her. You're orbiting her. Your world has shrunk to the size of her moods. Your friends are gone, not because they left, but because you stopped calling. You told yourself you were busy, tired, focused on us. But the truth is, she made connection feel like betrayal. Every time you wanted to see someone, she had a reason you shouldn't. That friend? He's immature. Your brother? He never respected me. Your parents? They just don't understand our relationship. So you withdrew, not to please her, but to avoid another conflict. Until one day, there's no one left to talk to. She didn't have to forbid it. She just made it cost too much. Every visit, every call, every moment away carried the weight of her disappointment. So you stayed home, you stayed quiet, you stayed loyal, and in doing so, you disappeared from everyone who once reminded you who you were. That's how she isolates you. Not by locking you in, but by convincing you that everything outside her is dangerous, disloyal, or pointless. She becomes your only voice of truth, your only source of comfort, and your only point of reference. You live in her reality now, a small, self-contained world where her feelings are law, but isolation has an unexpected side effect: silence. And sometimes, silence is the thing that saves you. One day, you're driving alone. No music, no calls, just air and road. And for the first time in years, your head feels quiet. You breathe deeper, the noise fades, the weight lifts, even if just for a moment. And that's when it hits you. This is what peace feels like. Not her approval, not her calm, peace. That moment plants a seed. It's small, but it grows. You start to see her not as your partner, but as your captor, the architect of a world where only she thrives. You start to question her words, her rules, her endless corrections. You start to realize that what she called love was really control, and what she called loyalty was really fear. At first it terrifies you, because if this wasn't love, then what was it? If she didn't build you up, why did you let her tear you down? The answer is painful but simple, because you wanted to believe. You wanted love so badly, you mistook control for care, but the fog starts to lift. You begin saying small things that once would have started wars. You take small steps that would have required permission, and nothing happens. The sky doesn't fall. That's when you realize her power only existed because you obeyed it. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing. You stop asking for approval. Each act of defiance feels like oxygen. Each moment of truth feels like resurrection. She notices, of course. She panics, then cries, then accuses. But now you can see it clearly. She's not fighting for you. She's fighting for control. You stop feeling guilt. You start feeling clarity. And that's the beginning of freedom, when you stop fearing her reaction and start fearing your own regret. Because once you realize she never owned you, you start to remember what it feels like to belong to yourself again. Section 8. The escape and the truth. Leaving doesn't start with a suitcase. It starts with a decision, a quiet one, the kind that lives in your chest long before it reaches your lips. You don't announce it. You don't argue. You just stop playing the game. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending what doesn't need defending. You stop bending just to keep her calm. And for the first time in years, you feel something strange: power. She senses it immediately. She feels the energy shift before you've even said a word. She'll test you, accuse you of pulling away, of changing, of giving up. And she's right. You have changed. You're done performing, done apologizing, done being the villain in a story she keeps rewriting. That's when she panics. Her control starts to slip, and she scrambles to pull it back. She'll cry, promise to change, talk about the good times, but you've heard it all before. The good times were never real, they were bait. Temporary kindness designed to keep you chasing approval that never existed. You don't argue anymore. You don't explain why you're done, because explanations are for people who want to understand, and she never did. She didn't want truth, she wanted submission, and you finally run out of it. So you walk away, maybe not physically at first, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You detach piece by piece until her voice no longer echoes in your head. You start reclaiming small things, your time, your silence, your peace. You begin to breathe again, and this time, it's not under her permission. She'll call you selfish. She'll say you abandoned her. She'll tell her friends that you stopped caring. But deep down, you know the truth. You didn't leave her. You left the version of yourself that she built. The man who lived for her moods, her approval, her comfort. He's gone. In his place stands someone quieter, stronger, free. You don't need her validation anymore. You've learned the hardest lesson a broken man can learn. Love without respect is just slow destruction. And when you finally step into your own silence, you understand what peace really means. It's not loud. It doesn't need revenge or closure. It's calm, steady, and real. The kind that doesn't depend on someone else's permission. You'll look back someday, not with hate, but with clarity. You'll realize she didn't destroy you because she was powerful. She destroyed you because you thought love meant saving her, and she let you drown trying. But you're awake now. You see the cage. You see the pattern. You see that your freedom was never hers to give. It was yours to remember. So you walk forward, into the quiet, into the unknown, into yourself. You don't look back, you don't need to, because the man she broke is gone, and the man who remains is the one thing she never wanted you to become: free. The final line, so if you ever wonder how a woman destroys a man, don't picture chaos, picture quiet. 1,000 soft moments where he says less, moves less, becomes less, until the version of himself he once knew is nothing but a ghost wandering his own home. She doesn't do it with fists. She does it with sighs, with silence, with that small sharp tone that makes him doubt his worth until he starts measuring love by how much pain he can endure. That's how men disappear. Not in one explosion, but in daily erosion, smiling through apologies they don't owe, working to fix problems they didn't cause, bleeding quietly so no one else has to see the wound. And when he finally leaves, not with rage, not with vengeance, but with clarity, she'll say he changed. She'll say he grew cold, distant, heartless, and she'll be right, because he stopped dying for her. He stopped mistaking control for love. He stopped believing that keeping her happy was worth losing himself. That's not coldness, that's resurrection. That's a man remembering what peace feels like. That's a man who finally understands that love isn't supposed to hurt, that love doesn't shrink you to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. And when he looks back one last time at the ruins of what used to be his life, he won't curse her name. He'll just whisper the truth. She didn't ruin me. I ruined myself trying to make her whole. And then he'll walk away, not broken, not bitter, but awake. Because once a man learns to stop apologizing for existing, he never returns to the hands that taught him how to disappear.